Did you know that on the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft, 52% of new players die at spawn on their very first day? Or that out of 10,000 recorded bases, magenta is the least popular color of terracotta? Or that out of every single carpet placed on the entire server, less than 1% of them are the color lime? This information seems pretty random, and you may be wondering, Fit, how could you know all this? Where's this data even coming from? Well, last month, a group of hackers revealed that they've been spying on the server for the past 3 years, using an exploit called nocom. They used it to locate every single base and record player behavior on a scale never before seen in Minecraft. Their database can answer nearly any question you care to ask. How far away is the average base build from spawn? Which highway is the most traveled? What's the average amount of deaths for a new player? The list goes on. They've also recorded raw block data, such as the most popular colors of concrete, wool, which brewing stand slot is occupied the most. I kid you not, they've recorded almost everything. I have graciously been given access to some of the data gathered by the hackers. We've been able to study player behavior in the Anarchy environment in a way that was previously not possible. Today I present to you the shocking data behind Minecraft's 2b2t. I'm excited to dive in, and if you're as excited as I am, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Some of these findings may surprise you. We're covering a lot of information today, and one of the easiest ways to keep your information safe is by using Dashlane. Dashlane gives you everything to easily manage your passwords and keep them secure. With Dashlane, logging into a website is as easy as clicking login and letting autofill do the rest. It works with addresses and credit cards to make your online shopping seamless and easy. Dashlane works on multiple devices, so if you need to log in to an account on your phone, tablet, or desktop, you'll always have access to your passwords and account info. On top of all that, Dashlane also has a VPN, which stops your ISP from tracking your web activity and allows you to watch shows and movies that are unavailable in your country. If you find this as helpful as I do, you can try Dashlane for free on your first device at dashlane.com/FitMC. And if you decide to upgrade to premium, you can use my code FitMC for 10% off. Now then, let's get started. To begin, I want to explain where exactly today's data came from. The nocom exploit abused a simple mistake in 2b2t's server software. If you told the server you'd punched a block at a particular coordinate, 2b2t would respond by telling you which block was placed at that coordinate, no matter how far away it was. The flaw was abused at an industrial scale and downloaded entire bases by clicking all throughout them. AFK bots standing millions of blocks away would keep punching, one block at a time. They've kept a record of every single one of those events, the time and date, the coordinate, and the block that was there. With over 10 billion of those events spanning multiple years, these data points are an accurate summary of 2b2t builds, averaged across over 10,000 actual bases. All of the information in today's video is taken directly from this database, and was presented to me by Leisure, one of the masterminds behind the nocom exploit. All of this information will become available to the public eventually, but I was given early access to it for this video. All data was taken from March 2020 to July 2021, which is when nocom had the highest resolution data records. First, we're taking a look at player behavior, based on roughly 300,000 Minecraft accounts. Out of all players that join for their first time, 52% of them are killed by the environment. Only 25% are killed by another player, proving that spawn itself is actually more dangerous than PvPers. The average player dies around 4 times on their very first session. New players will play for around 45 minutes before either quitting or getting disconnected. What's interesting is that by looking at the graph of player session time, you'll notice there's a plateau at the 15-minute mark. This is because the timer for getting AFK kicked from the server is 15 minutes. 11% of people that join for the first time do absolutely nothing and then get kicked automatically. The reason for this is that waiting in the server's queue can take hours, so it's common for players to join queue and then leave their computers running. They'll sometimes get logged in before they return, so this 11% are the ones that don't make it back in time. How sad. 48% of new players never send a single message in public chat. And considering how toxic the server's chat is on a regular basis, that's probably for the best. The player that has sent the most chat messages according to the nocom database is Pyru, who has sent an astounding 177,000 messages. Out of all the new players, how many of them will become server regulars? Well, 46% of players that join once never return. This can be seen on the percentile chart, which shows that only 25% of new players log in at least 5 times. If you were playing once a day, I would argue it would take 30 sessions to become a server regular, which would mean only 7% of new 2B2T players actually become regulars. In this chaotic wasteland, not everyone has what it takes. Now that we've explained new player behavior, let's move on to highway activity. Since the nocom exploit was tracking over 300,000 players in real time, it made it possible to see which highways were the most traveled. We'll start with the overworld directions first. For years, the community consensus was that the eastern overworld highway was the most traveled and the western was the least, but the nocom data has revealed this is not entirely correct. Going in order from most traveled to least, on average, the eastern highway, shown in blue, is the most popular, followed in second by the western highway. The southern canal is in third, and the northern highway is in fourth as the least popular direction. North being last is kind of funny, considering the physical highway itself goes farther than the other 3. Moving on to the nether highways, the results are very identical to the overworld, but with much more variation on a weekly basis. What's interesting is that the nether highways don't actually have a consistent ranking of which is the most or least popular. Each direction had at least 1 week as the most frequently used highway, but otherwise the order of east, west, south, and north still remains in the very long-term averages. Something to note is that anytime I released a video about a specific highway over the past 2 years, you can actually see player activity spike in that direction. For example, after my Eastern Highway video, you can see the player activity in that direction, shown in blue, rise dramatically. So we've now observed new player behaviors and which highway directions are the most popular. But what happens when those players decide it's finally time to build a base? How far out will they go before feeling safe? And what blocks do they tend to use? This is where things get really interesting. Any distance under 100,000 blocks is considered the greater spawn region, as locations in this area are reached very quickly by using the nether. Out of all 10,000 bases recorded by the exploit, the median distance from spawn was 171,000 blocks. 30% of recorded bases were actually in the greater spawn region, with the other 70% being over the 100k threshold. 13% of them were over 1 million blocks away, and only 1% were over 5 million blocks. Now that we know how far out the average base is, let's take a look at the block data from these locations. The nocom exploit remotely downloaded all bases beyond 100k, and we've analyzed them to see which blocks were the most popular with builders and which ones were the least. By far, the most popular manufactured block on the entire server is stone brick. nocom recorded almost 10 million separate placements of this block at different bases. While these are found naturally in generated strongholds, remember, 2B2T is almost 11 years old, so strongholds have never actually generated here. The least popular manufactured block is the red sandstone slab, but if we're only counting full-sized building blocks, magenta terracotta takes the record as least popular. Now, let's take a closer look by breaking down the blocks by type. When it comes to wool, the default white was the most commonly used color, followed in second by black. Magenta was the least popular color, accounting for less than 1% of all recorded wool blocks. When the wool was turned into carpets, the results were pretty identical. white and black were the most popular, but this time, lime was the least popular color. Carpets are most commonly placed to make map art, which lines up with white and black being popular colors. Moving on to concrete, white and black continue to take the top spots, with the least popular being brown. But if we look at concrete powder, the results look quite different. Lime is actually the second most popular powder at almost 25%. The least popular was cyan at only 0.5%. Glazed terracotta results are a mixed bag. Light gray is the most popular color, accounting for 20% of all blocks. And as mentioned previously, magenta is the least popular at just over 1%. When it comes to shulkers, the default purple is the most popular, accounting for almost 27%. Red is in second place, likely due to being the preferred color for PvP kits, which are some of the most commonly traded shulkers on the server. Gray was the least popular shulker at around 2%. Moving on to the crop data, it really should come as no surprise that out of the 4 major crops, the majority of them were recorded in their final stages of growth. This implies that the majority of all foods grown on the server remain unharvested and are mainly used for looks. It makes sense. Once you have a surplus of food, harvesting manually just becomes tedious. For popularity across the server, wheat was the most popular farmland crop, followed by carrots, potatoes, and then finally beetroot. Of the major foods that are solid blocks, melons were the most popular, followed by pumpkins, with chorus fruit flowers in third, and cake coming in dead last. For the redstoners out there, redstone dust was the most commonly placed, while activator rails were the least. When it comes to brewing stands, the left potion slot was the most commonly used, which seems like common sense, but it's cool to see the data to actually back it up. Now, the last bit of information I saved for the very end. It's actually related to player behavior again, but if you were to play 2B2T for at least 170 hours, that would put you in the top 1% of all players for total playtime. Pretty crazy stuff. For an exploit that brought chaos to the server, it's cool that we're able to study it and use it for something a bit more positive, and I'm curious to learn even more about the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. Also make sure to follow my socials, so take it easy FitFam, and try not to die on your first day.